Hey guys, Veebat here with another V Plays, and somebody recently asked me, hey V, what aircraft should I get as my first premium? I'm looking at getting a Tier 4. I say this every time because I don't like telling people how to spend their money, because the last thing I want you to do is pull out some of your hard-earned money, throw it at what should be a free video game, and then find yourself hating the aircraft I recommended and just being resentful. So usually what I suggest when somebody says, what should be my first premium? I say it should be the XP55 or it should be the Vampire F1, because you can get both of those aircraft for free as long as you're willing to put the effort in. And putting the effort into getting those airframes and learning how to fly your other aircraft properly in order to achieve those missions is what is going to prepare you to be able to fly those aircraft effectively once you finally do have them. Buying a whole bunch of premium aircraft is all well and good if you're Mr. Moneybags and you have the ability to do that, and this is just kind of your thing. That's cool, but I don't think it's really going to prep you for getting better at the game. Focusing your efforts in one particular direction is going to help you hone your skills and learn your play style. So with that said, let's say you're still going to go and spend some money on the game anyways. If you're going to go ahead and spend money on the game anyways, and you're going to get a Tier 4 and you still want my recommendation, I'm going to recommend that the aircraft for you is going to be the aircraft for you. It's not necessarily the aircraft for everybody else. A premium aircraft is something that you're theoretically going to be flying a lot in order to build up credits, so that way you can buy another airframe on the line that you're really grinding, okay? Because aside from trying to get some credits and training up aircrew, flying a premium aircraft is just spinning your wheels. You're not making any forward progress anywhere else in the game, with the exception of building up that credit stockpile and possibly training up a pilot member or a member of your crew. So get an aircraft that falls in line with what you're already grinding and enjoying. Don't grind a line just because someone told you to, but let's say you want to fly American machine gun fighters because you really love Mustangs and you really love the F-86 Sabre because of its history, how iconic it is, and you're already in the P-40 and you're enjoying it, and you want something to kind of help you along those lines. You don't have many options, but this is your option right here. It's going to be the 2PA. It only sports two 50 cal machine guns. It has a tail gunner, oddly enough, but this will allow you to be able to kind of get used to flying around and using machine guns, and it allows you to be able to train your crew. You'll note that almost all the aircraft down here at the bottom say crew incomplete. As a premium aircraft, I can throw any pilot I want in here, and while typically, well, let's pull up an example real quick and kind of a hint at the future, I guess. I have the attacker I just purchased, but I haven't had the cash to retrain the pilot. This is what happens when you put a pilot in an aircraft that it isn't meant for and you move it along with the crew training. It says that this pilot's proficiency is only 50% in this airframe, because it's actually going to be a Seahawk pilot, sorry. So as a Seahawk pilot, his overall effectiveness is only going to be 50%, and he's locked unless I go ahead and retrain him for this aircraft. But let's go ahead and deselect this. And what happens when I take, well, let's put my F-86 pilot in here. You'll see that it's not red, it still says 100%, and he can still use all of his skills with no degradation. That is the advantage of having a premium aircraft, and I highly recommend that you go ahead up to this crew tab and you click this accelerate crew training button, because what that's going to do is all the experience that this aircraft is going to be gaining is going to be converted and added to the pilot experience. So it's a really good idea to go ahead and do that, because if I'm going to be flying this for a long time, trying to get the experience built up so that way I can get to the next airframe, at least I'm not just gaining credits, I'm also helping that pilot continue to gain experience towards these multiple skills that you see listed here. So that's what I really suggest. Now, let's go through the rest of the ones I have in the hangar, and then we'll cover a couple in the tech tree that I don't have. The LBSH is going to be a Russian ground attacker. Russian ground attackers are very popular for ground attacking because they have the ability early on to flip a zone in a single pass. They have a combination of rockets and bombs, and they usually get fairly good guns and pretty good tail gunners. And they also sport a lot of hit points. So the LBSH is a really good aircraft to train with, and again, it has the positions you would need to be able to train up your crew. So I have the gunner position here. I could throw my IL-40 in or my IL-20 gunner, and I could also throw in one of my other ground attack pilots as well. So this is a really good platform for that. Now, at first glance, you're probably going to be thinking, well, those don't look like very strong guns, V. 220s and 2.762 machine guns. Yeah, they don't look that powerful, but you also got to take into account that this is tier 4, and it's going to be equivalent to what you'll see for the other tier 4 ground attackers. And oh, by the way, the other tier 4 ground attacker doesn't have a tail gunner yet, so this is already getting you ready for getting a little bit further along in the way that this aircraft plays. And the bombs are very powerful for the tier and able to respawn fairly quickly. Another line a lot of people really like going down is going to be the German heavy fighters, mostly for the 262, and then of course the HG2 and the HG3 just look like space-aged versions of its predecessor. So the BF-110C6 is going to sport the flight mechanics that you're probably going to need to get you used to that type of flying style. It's going to have relatively low engine power. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not going to be nearly the same as being able to hammer the boost on a 262 and having that rocket motor shoot you up to those velocities you're trying to get to. This is going to demand that you're paying very good attention to your airspeed, your altitude, and using those things to be able to maintain your velocity going through engagements. The gun configuration is definitely different with this really big 30mm cannon that can fire at very long range. It's different than the guns you would see typically along this line, but I feel as though the flight characteristics are going to prepare you, and again, crew training. This aircraft, I don't know. I mean, it's here. I got it in a Santa bag. If you have this aircraft and you want to use it for doing ground attacker training for the Germans, it doesn't have a tail gunner position, which is a little bit lacking, and I don't really like that. The forward firing gun armament just isn't that good, and it carries 4 bombs that are fairly lackluster with a really long reload compared to the LBS-8. So it's hard for me to suggest this ground attacker. I don't suggest it. It's not that good, and I barely fly the thing, to be honest with you. We just did a review of the HE111H2, and I'll tell you, this thing is awesome. So thanks again to Honor Guard. I really do appreciate it. This is a solid bomber for the tier. If you really like flying German bombers, this has the crew positions. It's gonna fly in that higher altitude typical manner. Yes, it is a little bit more robust on the hit points, so it's a little bit slower as a result of that, but it's a nice change of pace, to say the least. I mean, flying the EF-131 or the 287, or let's say you're on the 288s most likely. The 288s, they are going to be that 8 bomb drop, very similar to what we saw with the DOE 217M, but this is going to be different. And that's nice, because if you're going to be flying this thing trying to grind out some extra credits, it's nice to have a change of pace every once in a while, so I do prefer that. The next aircraft, which we're actually going to take out for a flight, is going to be the Phantom. The Phantom, most people I think head towards the Spitfire line. You see a lot of people do that because it's recommended and it's also a very iconic aircraft. The Spitfires are known for having really good dogfighting capability and good guns. This is going to get into that realm. It's a biplane, so it still has that type of rolly, quick turn maneuverability, and it only sports 120 and 2.707 Brownings in the center of the aircraft. But if you pulse those cannons properly, which you typically have to do with the Spitfires anyway, especially for the Spitfire 5, its complement of guns when you start getting 20s incorporated. This is going to be a good baseline for that, so I do highly recommend the Fantôme. And it seems like it's a little bit outdated for its tier, but don't let the wooden propeller fool you. It's actually a fairly strong airframe. Now let's go to some of the aircraft that I don't have, but I still think are fairly strong airframes. The LA-3 on paper looks like a really good aircraft, but it is truly a multi-role. It has very poor turn characteristics at this tier with a 10.3 second turn time, which means that since it has to operate at those lower altitudes like multi-roles do, it's not going to be able to outturn things like the Fantôme, and it's going to find itself in a tough spot. But if you've ever flown multi-roles, for those of us that are a little bit more seasoned, I think you'll agree with me that multi-roles already have kind of a weird niche that they fall in anyways. They have to be a lot more cognizant of what's going on in the battlefield, so that way they don't get themselves into too much trouble. So this will prepare you for that. And the combination of a 20, a 50 cal machine gun, and two 7.62 machine guns, this is more than enough firepower at this tier to be able to go after other multi-roles as well as ground attackers and be able to tear them up pretty good. Additionally, you get 8 air-to-ground rockets, which means that you're also going to be able to do that true multi-role work of being able to help take out some of those critical ground sites, especially some of those AA sites. Shouldn't have gone out of the tech tree. The Germans also have a multi-role, and it comes in the form of the AR-197, and I think it's actually available on the NA server as a special deal where you can get some 5,000 gold with it as well, if that's still going on. This carries 4 SD-50 or 50 kilogram bombs. These are pretty decent bombs for a multi-role to be carrying, and you get to carry 4 of them, so that's great. And as I've mentioned before, the Fantôme only gets 2 low caliber machine guns. Well, it gets 2 low caliber machine guns as well, but only a single 20. But this gets 2 of those 20s, which means that this actually sports a even more impressive gun loadout, and is probably, well, arguably a more, what should I say, more versatile than what you would see with the Fantôme. So even though we're taking the Fantôme out, it would probably be better for us to take this out, to be honest with you. The maneuverability is really good at it with an 8.2 second turn time because it is a biplane, but it's also going to be relatively slow because it's a biplane, but it's not that bad for that tier. It'll be able to get to where it needs to go, and it'll also be able to dogfight with all the other nasty dogfighters at this tier, and with a combination of bombs makes it fairly versatile as well, which is going to prepare you if you want to go down the German multi-role line. It'll prepare you with that air-to-ground capability because a lot of the Focke-Wulf line is going to incorporate a lot of air-to-ground ordnance as well as some very robust forward firepower. But if you want to use it as a turn fighter, it works really well there, even though the Germans don't have an equivalent turn fighter line. Alright, anyways, let's go ahead and get into it with the Fantôme so we at least get to see some gameplay. Alright, so here we are into the battle, and one of the things I just realized, and it's good to mention, you'll note that this is a specialized aircraft, and at tier 4 you're going to see people in tier 3s, and I already kind of feel bad for some of the players, which is going to be Maluk, and well, Backseater 60 is also specialized, so maybe I shouldn't feel as bad for him. But here's my point. These lower tiered aircraft, especially a premium, if you're going to be flying a premium around, you're probably going to be able to get to specialized over pretty quickly, which means that you're most likely going to invest the money to specialize it, and you should, because you just spent real money on the thing. So go ahead and really kit it out so that way you can use it to its full potential. And while that may make you feel dirty as you start to get better at the game and you're flying against the enemy aircraft, or these enemy players that are still essentially new to the game. There we go. Get that 20 on. Whoa. focusing. It may make you feel a little bit dirty, just know that I still advocate for it. It's still a necessary evil. Whoop. The nice thing about biplanes is that biplanes are really good at doing what I call a brake turn, which is getting to a really strong pitch angle and kind of flipping around. They can also go at much lower speeds, and look at this, we nearly turned in place on this F3F. Let's go ahead and call for some help here. That aircraft is going to be a multi-role. Which means we do have a little bit of an advantage in the turn on him. We just made him crash, perfect, which allowed us to be able to pick up the zone. Whew. Why did I go towards the airfield? Because you should always be going towards the most critical zone, and since this is the only one that gives you any type of an advantage compared to the garrisons, which just give you points, this is going to allow all my ground attackers to respawn over here and start working on the enemy. So as long as I can stay here and hold this place, we should be in good shape, and that's exactly what this aircraft is good for. Being a turn fighter, you are perfect for going up and snagging the airfield. But now I have to rely on the rest of my team to do their jobs, so. But as you can see, it's very similar to the Spitfire line, and again, like I said, very popular. And we're really just using that 20, and you can see how much it chunks away at the enemy, so there is some serious advantages here. We got this guy again. We've taken out his tail. We're hitting the brakes so we can stay behind him a little bit better, and we knocked him out again. And he's specialized, so don't feel as bad. Get that 20 to find the sweet spot. Again, pulsating that fire like we mentioned in the hangar. You don't want to overheat that 20. Now I do have the secondary set up for just the machine guns, so we can allow ourselves to continue to fire while we wait for that 20 to cool off. Like coming up from underneath people if I can, because that usually puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. I've mentioned it before, the human mind likes to think in flat planes, so they're looking left and right, but they aren't looking up and down typically. So now we're coming up from underneath this aircraft and he doesn't really expect us, even though he's a bot. There we go. And man, I have a feeling that this guy's just going to keep coming at me over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and get low. Yeah, he is totally on me, which is also fair. Like, if he's after me because he knows that I'm another specialist and I'm a threat, I can get down with that. He should be going after me, right? We're still losing the battle though, you'll note. So, even though you're holding the middle, doesn't necessarily mean your team's going to be able to get the advantage. He crash again? Yes, he did. At the very least, I'm building up tokens, right? We just got a medal. There we go. Yeah, that's right. I just stole that kill from a bot. Now, something we also didn't mention is there are some other tier 4s that are out there that are gift aircraft or special event aircraft. There is a Hayabusa, it's a Key 43 painted in Chinese nationalist colors, only sporting 250s, but very similar to what you should be expecting from the Key series. So, fairly decent aircraft to pick up there and should prepare you for the rest of the line. There's also a French aircraft which sports 4 light machine guns, and from all accounts it is a bit of a pig for firepower and turn capabilities, but if you really like weird French aircraft, it does still have that weird look of a weird French airframe. I also believe that there's a British multi-role as well, or a UK multi-role. So that's something to consider. Now there is something we could do at this point in the match, and I'm contemplating for later, is as we're getting towards the end of the match, we've been maintaining a fairly even gradient for capture, with only 2 zones each. So with 14 seconds left, we may be able to attrit the enemy aircraft off the battlefield and be able to just defeat them that way. So that's something for us to consider. Throwing that on there. Oh, now we're caught out. Don't let them kill me. I think I may have just screwed myself by getting into the enemy's furball, huh? Did we just take out his tail? Yeah, we did. He's knocked out. What's my next target? Winged Legend. Knocked out the aircraft. What do we got next? Where's our... It's not a major threat, but he's here. Whoa. Ooh, come on. Not quite. Looks like we picked up another zone, possibly as a result of attriting away a lot of these enemy aircraft. Can't do much about that bomber, he's probably at a much higher altitude. Let's head back towards the middle. Actually, let's head back towards their other zone. We just got the advantage in capture, so that's awesome. Again, getting out of plane, getting low. There we go, just picked up the ace. You guys aren't going to believe me. I literally went from that review straight into this battle, and yes, it is early morning on 4th of July, so it's not entirely fair, but yeah, good battle. Where are all my allies? Oh, wow. Don't you run into me. I'm more than happy to kill you, though. Oh, wow. Great battle. I'm happy with that. We'll go over all these in a minute, I guess. Let's get back to the hangar, and we'll kind of culminate our thoughts, I guess. Oh, I guess I picked up a bunch of these missions as well. Cool. So, let's go ahead and just say this is a really good finish, I think, to a video that was supposed to be just a quick down and dirty on some tier 4 premiums, and now I just feel dirty because I did not make that game any more enjoyable for new players. So sorry to you guys. I've flown this plane a lot, as you can probably tell. But we did pick up these myriad of medals, and I said I'd go over them real quick. So I'm just highlighting them for you so that way you can see. But again, I've flown this aircraft a lot, which has helped me get used to the nuance of using that 20mm cannon. But again, I feel like that carries over to the Spitfire line as well. And in addition to that, you can see that we got a lot of cash. We got 141,000 credits, and at tier 4, that's a lot of credits to be pulling in. But to be fair, you're not going to be sporting games like this all the time, and I definitely don't sport games like this all the time. This is episodic at best, and that's a lot of tokens, and mostly, I think, a result of getting these 2 missions completed. But you can see here underneath pilot experience that we got 18,778 pilot experience. That's twofold. One, it's because I'm doing the Accelerate crew training, so all of that experience going into this pilot is a direct result of me clicking that little button underneath the crew tab here for Accelerate crew training. And then also this was a ×3, so as a ×3, it adds even more to that experience pool. So just something for you guys to bear in mind. So what a great battle to end on. Holy goodness. Anyways, so here's the tier 4s that I have seen and I recommend them based on what you're already flying. But again, go get a free premium. Spend the time, make the effort, and then you'll appreciate it even more because you've earned it and it was free. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, I will catch you on the next one.